Oh, there you go. There you go. That feels nice. Let me move my hips a little bit. That feels good. Just relax. Take your time. Slow down. That's the problem. Everyone's in too much of a rush. Just slow down. Just let that get up in you. I know what you want to ask me. I know what you want to know. Is it still prostitution if you pay with counterfeit money? Technically, nothing of value was exchanged. If you say yes, it's still prostitution, 2 crimes were committed, well, you sound just like that judge. Welcome to the Comparison Guy Podcast. Listen on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Today is November 23rd, 2024. Maybe that wasn't the question you were going to ask me. Maybe you were going to ask me what I think about Trump's cabinet picks. Oh, okay. All right, well, we can talk about that too. Sure, okay. Most recent, as I'm recording this, as far as I know, Lori Chavez Derimer. Oh, for Labor Secretary. Apparently a very pro-union, pro-worker Republican. Uh-oh. I'm sure a lot of progressives are going to struggle with that one because they certainly can't praise Trump for it. But according to a lot of people, it's a good pick, as good a pick for labor as a Republican president could have made. And you know that because the instant reaction from the business establishment is they're not happy with the pick. So as labor secretaries go, not one for liberals, for Democrats, for progressives to be too upset with. I'm sure we'll learn more about Lori Chavez Derimer, whatever her name is, for Labor Secretary. You got Dr. Oz for Centers, for Medicare and Medicaid Services. You got Howard Lutnick, a Wall Street billionaire, for Commerce Secretary. You got the WWE Wrestling, the co-founder, Vince McMahon's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, for Department of Education. You got Fox News host Sean Duffy for Transportation Secretary. You got Brenda Carr for the FCC. She's already on the commission, but she would lead it. You got I Am Groot for Attorney General. Oh, wait. Matt Gaetz is out. Oh, Matt Gaetz out. Groot for Attorney General, he's out. We'll see who he picks to replace him. Who else? You got RFK. Robert F. Kennedy for Department of Health and Human Services. You got Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. You got Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. You got Elise Stefanik for Ambassador to UN. You got Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. I hope you're writing all these names down. And the list goes on. You can go on. You can Google. There's a ton of other names. Why am I just running through the names? Why am I just running through these names without giving you any information or background or my opinion on any of these people? Why am I doing that? Aren't they doing that everywhere else? As soon as a name comes out, they go, oh, let us tell you everything you need to know about this person. Well, I'm just running through all the names right now because I don't know. I have opinions, and I'm sure you have opinions on someone like a Dr. Oz or RFK. I'm sure people have their opinions, but I don't know. I don't know Tom Brady. I don't know the man. I know I hate him. As a football fan, as a fan of a football team he didn't play for, I know I hate Tom Brady, and I know I've heard weird things about him or read weird things about him online. I hate his pretty boy good looks. I'm jealous of his talent, but I don't know him. So when I heard that Donald Trump picked him to be Surgeon General, I said, what? What the heck? Isn't that supposed to be a doctor? Doesn't it have to be a doctor? What the heck qualifies Tom Brady, a former NFL quarterback, to be Surgeon General? What, just because he donated money to Trump? What the heck does the Surgeon General even do? I don't know anything. Like, for instance, Donald Trump did not name Tom Brady Surgeon General. So if you reacted to that, if he reacted to that in a negative way, saying, what the heck, who the heck, why the heck? Well, why? Why, if you don't even know what the Surgeon General does? If I said, well, let me tell you what the Surgeon General does. The Surgeon General is kind of like a mascot, like Smokey the Bear. Someone to be the face of public health and encourage people to exercise and eat better. And it might surprise you to know that both Bill Clinton and Barack Obama didn't even name a Surgeon General. So if I told you that, you might say, well, in that case, I guess maybe Tom Brady's not such a crazy pick. And you would once again be wrong because I just made all that up. That is not what the Surgeon General does. And Bill Clinton and Barack Obama did appoint Surgeon Generals. So my point is, why do we insist on forming such hard and fast opinions with so little knowledge or understanding? I get the opinions on certain people, the instant reaction on certain people. I get it, like there was with Matt Gaetz. You get that. Dr. Oz, I get that. RFK, I get that. I get the instant reaction. But the hard and fast opinions, why do we insist on doing that? And that's why, perhaps like any other show or information source that might be out there, I'm just running through the names right now because I don't know. I don't have enough information to give you my hard and fast opinion. So why would I? I can tell you what I thought going into this. I said, man, I kind of thought it'd be harder for him to find people to serve in his administration. I thought it'd be a lot harder. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. He does not have the best track record for former personnel, as president or in the private sector. But particularly as president, I mean, marriages have broken up. You got Kellyanne Conway and her husband, they got divorced. People have been bankrupted. Rudy Giuliani's bankrupted, associating himself with him. People have lost all their credibility, like a Bill Barr, his former attorney general. And people have gone to prison. Mike Flynn, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, etc., etc., etc. So he doesn't have the best track record, Donald Trump, for people associating themselves with him. So I thought it'd be harder for him to find people. And then I said, maybe it has been hard for him to find people. Maybe there have been people turning him down that he's going to. And that's how you end up with a Dr. Oz. Because you went to three other people and they said, no thanks. No thanks. I don't know. What I do know is I'm not going to instantly overreact either way. I'm not going to say, oh my God, this is the greatest pick in the history of picks. Like some podcasts or radio shows or information sources I'm hearing. And I'm not going to say, oh my God, this is the worst possible pick in history. Like some podcasts and radio shows and information sources I'm seeing. I'm not going to overreact like that. Who's Pete Hegseth? I don't know. But a lot of people didn't know who J.D. Vance was. Who's J.D. Vance? Nobody knew him on the left. Most people, I would say, that don't closely follow politics didn't know who J.D. Vance was when Trump picked him to be his vice president. But everyone had an immediate reaction. They had an immediate Google reaction. That's what I call it, an immediate Google reaction. Whatever the first thing Google tells you that you like, that's your opinion. You understand what I'm saying? When you don't know something, you don't have the information, you say, well, let me go to Google and let me see here. J.D. Vance, who the heck's that? First three results. Okay, he's from Ohio. He wrote some kind of book. Trump picked him to be his VP. Oh, here we go. He likes to have sex with couches. Oh, he's weird. Okay, that's my opinion. That's what people do. They go to Google. Whatever the first thing they want to agree with and what they want to like, that's their opinion going forward. When Obama picked Eric Holder to be his attorney general, people were like, didn't he play for the Celtics? So name recognition means next to nothing for me right now. Who's Pete Hegseth? I don't know. What I care about, can they do the job in a way that's best for America? Can they do the job in a way that's best for America? Do they have the knowledge, the skill, and will they work hard? Do they have the knowledge, the skill? Will they work hard? Well, hang on here, comparison guy. What about the craziness? What about all the craziness we do know? It's on the record. Hegseth says women shouldn't serve in combat. RFK spread misinformation about vaccines. Kristi Noem is the scariest thing to a dog next to a Haitian. So what about all that? You're just going to ignore all that? No, I'm not going to ignore all that. I'm not going to ignore any of that. I'm just saying I'm not going to allow just those bits of information to form the basis of my hard and fast opinion when I do form a hard and fast opinion. That just seems to make sense to me. That just seems to be common sense. If I don't just form a hard and fast opinion based on limited information, I don't have to worry a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now about clinging to that opinion. I can be more flexible. That just makes sense to me. And I've said so many things on this podcast that I think are just common sense. Certainly ain't no genius, just common sense. But I figured something out recently. I figured out why people don't listen. People listen. I appreciate everybody that listens regularly. I appreciate everyone who shares the show. But the show doesn't have huge listenership. I got to tell myself it just doesn't have the exposure that other people get to have the huge listenership. I don't think it's that I'm just way off base, but I figured out why certain people don't listen. I figured out why certain people out there dismiss others' opinions or thoughts or suggestions so quickly nowadays. Like maybe someone who is a regular listener who tries to share the show with their friends or their colleagues and the people won't listen. I figured out why. People don't listen because people don't listen. What? Oh, yeah. When I spent the last 3 years screaming at Joe Biden to please go on Fox News, I think people didn't listen to that and they said, who's this idiot comparison guy? Joe Biden go on Fox News. A waste of time. Can't talk to those people. The reason people thought that way is because they don't listen to Fox News. They don't listen to Fox News or any conservative media for that matter. And so they didn't understand why I was saying Joe Biden needed to go on Fox News or why someone from the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Trump voters love me Ocasio-Cortez, why they needed to go on Fox News to explain the border, to explain this wokeism, to explain their positions on LGBTQ+, to explain liberalism. All of the things that were on trial in conservative media every single day. And they had no defense attorney. They didn't even have a bad public defender. They had no defense whatsoever. Now, Fox News was actually the best shot Democrats had at defending themselves. And I was always talking about people like Brett Baer or Neil Cavuto, more moderate people over there on Fox, what will be considered moderate on Fox News. That's the other problem. You hear Fox News, you immediately think Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson. You think about the extremes, Laura Ingraham. But no, what I'm saying go on Fox News, I'm talking about the other guys that exist over there and have existed over there. Even a Harris Faulkner. You don't even know the names of some of the people. But I didn't mean just go to any random conservative media. I'm saying go to Fox News because you need to put up a defense. You don't even know what they're saying over there. Now, stay with me here because this all ties in with Trump's cabinet picks. I regularly listen to conservative media. I listen to Fox. I listen to conservative podcasts. I listen to conservative radio. And they just rip and tear shreds into all the things I just listed for you. What Democrats' positions are on LGBTQ, on the border, their liberalism, on taxes, on everything. They just rip it to shreds. On Joe Biden, on Hunter Biden, on how Joe Biden enriched himself, on how he sold influence, and Hunter Biden sold influence. And they play calls, and they play different clips of different things said out of context at different times to make it appear that Joe Biden wants to welcome every immigrant outside of this country into the country. And there's no defense. There's no defense. If you were listening to that, you would picture yourself being in a courtroom and the prosecution was saying all that Joe Biden sold influence to his son and made millions. You would say, defense? Any objection? Any objection? No, I'm not going to dignify that with any kind of answer. Oh, okay. Well, trans kids are having their genitalia mutilated. These liberals want trans kids to have their genitals mutilated. Defense, any objection? Any objection? Liberals hate you. They hate the country. They want to make the country so bad that people have to depend on the government. That's their plan. Defense, any objections? Any objections to any of that? Alexandria, happy thanks-taking Ocasio-Cortez wants to take away your hamburgers because cows cause climate change, is what she thinks. Defense, any objections? Democrats are destroying freedom. Why? Because everything is woke to them now. Woke, woke, woke. Defense, any objections? Now, there are people sitting out there going, well, yeah, all of that stuff that you just said is 100% true. It's all 100% true. And there are people sitting out there going, it's all nonsense, and we don't even need to dignify it with a response. And that's the problem. That's why people don't listen to me. That's why people didn't listen to me when I said it is absolutely essential that Joe Biden should be going on Fox News. For 3 years. For 3 years I said it. Fox News, anywhere. News Nation, for God's sake. What was more moderate? It was absolutely essential because you had no defense. You did not put on a defense. You were on trial every single day, and you did not put up a defense. But people out there, the people out there who were still, I think, scratching their heads, wondering how in the heck the Bad Bunny endorsement didn't win Kamala the Hispanic vote in the numbers it should have. They're still trying to figure out how that happened. They're the same people sitting there going, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Who is he? He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's a waste of time to go to Fox News. It's a waste of time to talk to those people. Don't answer any allegations, because if you answer the allegations, it's like you're confirming the allegations. That's what people think. But here's what I'm here to tell you, if you will listen. Donald Trump's cabinet picks will get a defense. They will get a defense, every one of them, except for Matt Gaetz, apparently. Regardless of what some people out there are saying about, oh, Republicans are hesitant, Republicans aren't sure about this one, or this one's controversial, they will get a defense, and they will get a defense everywhere. Everywhere. There won't be anyone who's hesitant to go on MSNBC or CNN or talk to anyone to defend Donald Trump's cabinet picks. No one from the Republican Party will think it's beneath them to go and defend Donald Trump's cabinet picks. They won't think it's beneath them to answer allegations about any one of Donald Trump's cabinet picks, except Matt Gaetz. And that's the difference. That's the difference. That's what Democrats are missing. That's what they don't understand, that they're missing. And yes, I'll say the same thing. Now that Donald Trump is the president-elect, yes, he needs to go back on MSNBC. He hasn't been on MSNBC for quite some time. I don't know if he went on MSNBC, actually went on. I don't know. He might have called in, or he might have done some sit-down interviews with some people during his first term. I honestly don't remember, but I'm consistent. I would say the same thing. I see Joe and Mika. Yes, I know. They scurried on down to Mar-a-Lago. I'm not going to get distracted with that. I have some thoughts, but I'm not going to get distracted on Joe and Mika scurrying down to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump. You know why they did it. You know why they did it? Oh, we just wanted to establish lines of communication. We wanted to reestablish lines of communication. No, your ratings have plummeted, and you're scared to death those people will not come back. That's why you did it. That's why you did it, Joe and Mika, because your ratings have plummeted. And I've told you in the past, look, media is a corporation. They're a business. What do businesses fear the most? What did I tell you businesses fear the most? They fear a change in habit. That's what they fear. And so with all of these people after the election being so depressed, wanting to disengage from any information sources, once you change that behavior, if you were used to getting up in the morning, getting yourself ready for work, turning on MSNBC, and you decided after the election, I ain't doing that, I'll listen to music, I'll turn on something else, I'll turn on local news, that's what they fear, that those people will not come back because they changed their behavior. See, I got distracted with that. But that's why Joe and Mika scurried on down to Mar-a-Lago. They're scared to death that their listeners or their viewers are not going to come back. But back to what I was saying. Trump's picks will get a defense. They're getting a defense right now. I'm hearing it. But liberals aren't. And so liberals are going to form their hard and fast opinion on the things that they hear in the media they listen to, because they aren't listening to the other media that's out there that is giving the defense of some of these picks, which I have to say has been compelling, has been somewhat compelling. I'm going to play for you some clips that you probably have not heard and will not hear on all forms of media. And so that's a problem, because you're responding, you're going to go and you're going to fight against a Hegseth or RFK, but you're going to fight Hegseth on the whole women shouldn't be in frontline combat. Or you're going to fight RFK on his vaccination misinformation. But there's a whole bunch of other information out there that you don't know, a defense that you don't know, that you should know. Let's listen to some clips. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This first one is Pete Hegseth on the Ben Shapiro show, podcast, I guess you'd call it. And Ben Shapiro, smart guy, very smart guy. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but there's no denying he's a smart guy. The title of this episode is, let me see here, Team of the Century. More stellar picks. So you see what I'm talking about overreaction? That's a little bit of an overreaction. Team of the Century is what Ben Shapiro says. But here he is talking, not recently, but he's playing a clip of when he interviewed Pete Hegseth some time ago. So let's take a listen. This will give you some insight into what Pete Hegseth thinks about the military. Okay?
It goes all the way back to, we're not even declaring wars anymore because no one wants they're so politically untenable as to what way they'll go, so no one actually wants to invest in them or is willing to. And so you get these forever wars, which is a bad phrase because they're not forever wars, but it's the way it ends up being described because there is no actual end state. Tell me what the end state is in Ukraine. I could tell you what the end state is in Israel. And what's the only thing the American military and the American diplomats are doing right now? Trying to stop Israel from finishing the fight. Like, there's one thing that Israel could do. Kill every last one of those Hamas mother now, and then the war stops. And by the way, Israel didn't start it. Like, that's how wars end. That's how peace breaks out. For thousands of years, somebody actually wins the war. And when they win the war, then there's a new reality, a new geopolitical reality. We don't fight that way. We let the lawyers lead. We let international institutions have too much say. And it percolates. I tell stories directly as a platoon leader, down to can you shoot, can you not shoot? Are guys being criminalized after the fact, put in jail? I mean, Donald Trump pardoned a bunch of guys I advocated for in his last couple of years in office. They killed the right guys in the wrong way, according to somebody. I'm done with that. Like, we need to fight total war against our enemies when we do. And yeah, you don't kill civilians on purpose, but you kill bad guys, all of them. You stack bodies.
Now, listen, he said a lot in that, I don't know, maybe a 2-minute clip. And a lot of what he said, I'm certain there were a lot of people who would not have a difficult time agreeing with him on a lot of that. Some of the things may need context when he talks about, Donald Trump pardoning soldiers. They killed the right people, but in the wrong way. You need more context to it. But, here's the thing. I don't want to talk as someone who is going to sound like he knows more about the military than someone who's been in the military. I don't ever want to do that. Whenever I talk about strategy or about the military, about what we should be doing, about how we should be fighting wars, I don't think anyone who has never served in the military, and I'm not talking about served in combat, I'm talking about served in the military at all. At all. I don't think anyone who's never served in the military has the right to immediately come out and tell someone who has served they're wrong. Because I don't know. I haven't experienced it. I haven't been there. I haven't had bullets whizzing past my butt. Now, on an aside, I can say when he talks about women not being in combat, in frontline combat, I've talked about that before. I don't care. I've said, gay, transgender, women, I don't care. As long as you're shooting in the same direction I'm shooting in, or as long as you're shooting at the same people I'm shooting in, I don't care. I told you, you can have on a sundress and a pair of strappy sandals. I don't care. Watch my back, I'll watch yours. And so when he talks about that it's a problem for women to be in combat because the men, the soldiers, they react differently, I don't buy that. again, I don't want to talk out of turn, but knowing people in the military, I just don't buy that. I mean, a soldier will take a bullet for his dog. They have service animals in the military, and there's stories of guys, they don't want to, leave a wounded dog, much less another fellow soldier. And so I don't think it makes a difference to a member of the military, whether it's a man, woman, and I hope people don't think, did he just compare women to dogs? No, I did not. Don't twist it. You get what I'm saying. I don't think he's saying it has an effect on readiness or morale if it's a woman in combat versus a man in combat. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't think it matters. If it's a fellow soldier, it's a fellow soldier. If there's a casualty, it's a casualty. You don't mourn women, or it doesn't affect you more if it's women versus your best friend who was a man, who was a fellow soldier in your unit, if they take a casualty. So that's all I'll say on that. Back to the other stuff that he was saying. People will agree with a lot of that. That's his position. Now, does that work on the global scale, on strategy as Secretary of Defense, coming in with those types of ideas and theories? Once again, I don't know, but I do question how we win wars if we're not trying to win wars. I do question, they're talking about now these ATACMS, these missiles being given to Ukraine, and people saying we should have gave those to them a year ago. How come it took so long to get those to them? Or I do question if we're fighting a war against Russia and we tell Ukraine, stay away from the oil fields, don't blow up those oil fields, because when this is all over, we want Russia to have the ability to send oil to us. How is that a way to fight a war? If we're telling Israel, listen, you can't go into this city, you can't go into that city, you can't use this bomb, you can't use that bomb. Hamas is using civilians as human shields, but you're going to condemn Israel every time a civilian gets killed and not Hamas, who's putting the civilians in harm's way? So now they're fighting this public relations war with the international community weighing in at every step. How is Israel supposed to win a war that way? So I get what he's saying, and that's the information I need. I don't just need one-sided information. I don't just need people coming on TV and going, Pete Hegseth, who the heck is this guy? That Fox News guy did a morning show on Fox News, and oh, by the way, he hates women. Okay, give me that information, but give me this other information as well so I can form a good opinion, not a firm, instant, fast opinion that I can't change later. Let's move on to RFK. This is from Bill Maher's show on HBO. I see he's on CNN now, too. They put him, I think maybe Saturday night, Sunday night, they put his show on CNN. But for the most part, he's always been on HBO, and he always has good discussions. So let me explain something to you. I don't know what I'm doing. This is not what I do for a living. I don't know what I'm doing. I think it's important just to give people good information. There may be people saying, how come you're always telling people about other shows? You're telling people about this show, Ben Shapiro. You're telling people about Bill Maher. You're telling people about Dan Bongino. You're telling people about this podcast, Slate Podcast, The Daily. People are going to go listen to those shows and not listen to your show. Whatever. I think if you're an information source, give people information. I understand that risk that people may have limited time, and if I tell them to go listen to a different show, they may listen to my show less. So be it, as long as people are getting good information. That's it. That's how we should be doing things. That's how we should be thinking. If I say to you, I think this is important to hear, I want to tell you where I got it, where I heard it, so you can go and listen to it in its entirety if you want, if it's good information, if you can learn from it. So this is Bill Maher sitting down with someone, a doctor by the name of Casey Means, which I don't know who she is, but she gives you an alternative view of RFK. One of the other picks that, of course, people are freaking out about because, for God's sake, he eats bear cubs. So you're going to get one particular view of RFK. It's important to get another view. So if you're arguing the appointment of RFK, you at least are arguing with a complete set of facts about, or at least a set of opinions about RFK. So listen to this from Bill Maher's show.
So I saw you do this where I got familiar with this video you did where you said you graduated Stanford Medical.
Yes.
And the video was called something like I learned nothing there about what was important. Tell us what you didn't learn there that you think you should be taught at least in medical school.
Right. It's astonishing. It's not an overstatement to say that in my 4 years of Stanford undergrad, 4 years of Stanford medical school, and 4.5 years of surgical training, I did not learn a single thing about what is really making Americans sick, the true root causes of the chronic disease epidemic that's devastating and torturing American lives. The things like the impact of ultra-processed food on our health, the incredible 80,000 synthetic toxins that are our food, water, air, our personal care products, the fact that there's been 6 billion tons of plastic produced since 1907 that have entered our food, our water, even our air. The fact that 6 billion pounds of synthetic pesticides are sprayed on our global food supply every year. The average child in America is spending less time outdoors than a maximum security prisoner, and yet sunlight actually dictates a huge portion of our biology. So these modifiable aspects of holistic living that directly impact our cellular health are just not being talked about. We're really focused on silos in the American healthcare system. We have over 100 medical and surgical subspecialties, and what happens is we miss the forest for the trees of the root causes of what's making Americans sick. And I think what happened on election day this year is that Americans came out and said, we want to bend the curve of the chronic disease epidemic that is destroying American potential. And I think RFK represents someone who's willing to take that on.
Once again, she said a lot. And a lot of it might need context and it might need some more research, but it gives you an alternative view of what RFK's thinking is in relation to health. And a lot of what I heard there, I say, man, that's compelling. That's compelling information. I didn't really know this is his way of thinking when it comes to health. What's really making Americans unhealthy? And is this healthcare behemoth that we have in this country contributing to making Americans unhealthy, or is it helping? Is it truly helping us? Or is it just a for-profit, grifter, lobbyist, making billions system that's set up to actually make us less healthy, to have us living with chronic diseases that we shouldn't have to live with? I don't know. If RFK has some insight, I'd like to hear it. I'll listen. After I get done, you telling me about how he's burying bear cubs in Central Park. That's a little weird, a little goofy. Telling about how worms in his brain. Okay, a little weird. But I'll listen, because why not? What else I got to do? Seems important to know as much complete information as I can get, so that when I form my opinion, I'll have as much information as possible based on that opinion. Isn't that the way we're supposed to think? Isn't that the way smart people are supposed to think? You got this other pick. Well, who was it? I don't remember which one it was. Was it Kristi Noem? Was it Elise Stephane? I don't remember which one it was. But some woman talking about, no, maybe it wasn't a cabinet pick. Maybe it was just someone else in Congress. I don't remember who it was. I apologize. I could look it up real quick, but it don't matter. Republican woman who says, now that we have a trans woman elected to Congress, she's going to ban any trans women from the women's bathroom. Well, okay, first of all, what are you doing in the women's bathroom? What are you doing? I got to imagine they got stalls. It can't be like a barracks in the military where the toilets are just all open. I got to imagine they have stalls. When you go into a stall in a bathroom, it ain't that different from going to a porta potty in the park. I mean, come on. What are you doing? Are you washing your butthole in the sink out in the open for everyone to see? What are you doing in there? That's the first thing I think of. The next thing I think of is if you have an issue, if you truly have an issue, okay, fine. I'll understand that. If my wife came home and said, hey, they hired a trans woman at work today, I said, what's that mean? Well, she was born a man, but she now considers herself, she identifies as a woman. Post-op? No operation. Okay. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Okay, I'll entertain those feelings, but maybe you don't have to shout it so loudly from the hilltops, your objections, and I'm going to ban trans women from the ladies' room in Congress, because I have yet to hear about some trans kid bullying a cis kid into committing suicide. I've yet to hear that. I've yet to hear a story about some cisgender kid, which cisgender is the opposite of transgender, for people who don't know, which means I didn't know. I just had to look it up. But cisgender kid coming home crying because all the transgender kids at school are bullying them and calling them a freak. I've yet to hear that story. You know, one of Kamala Harris's problem is when she got confronted with that transgender commercial in the prisons, is she didn't have an answer for it. She didn't have a good answer for it. And what's the good answer for it? You lean into it. That's your policy. You lean into it. You explain to people, look, we got a problem. We got a real problem in the prison system. We have transgender people who go into prison. It may be a transgender woman, and they're put into a male prison, and that's a problem. But if you put them into a female prison, that's a problem. And so we were trying to solve a problem. You lean into it. That's how we do it. They're human beings. They're human beings. They go into prison and they get bullied. They commit suicide. Some of them get murdered. And so we were trying to solve a problem. You don't go, Donald Trump did it too. It was Donald Trump's policy. Well, what does that mean? What are you trying to say? Now it's bad? You're trying to say when it was Donald Trump's policy, it's bad? Are you for it or against it now? So she had a horrible answer on that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Let's figure this out. Let's stop acting like we're going to, as I say, condemn people's lifestyle or the way they're born in a way that's going to put their lives in danger. And that's not strange. That's not strange. And look at it from a financial aspect. I don't want to be told as a taxpayer, we got to pay more money for security, a security detail for the transgender congresswoman coming in because of stuff being said about her. I don't want to pay for that. If whoever this congresswoman was, if she had kept her mouth shut about it, nobody would care. Nobody would care. There'd be a transgender congresswoman in our government and no one would care. No one would take notice of it. But once someone starts yelling about bathrooms, all of a sudden everybody's got to take a position. I don't like that. And none of us should like that. None of us should like to hear stories about some gay youth or some trans kid who committed suicide, who hung themselves. Their father saying how they came home and found their daughter, their trans daughter, hanging, dead, committed suicide because they were being bullied. None of us should be okay with that. And the more we talk about things in a way that is condemning people as opposed to trying to figure out how do we solve these issues, how do we work on these problems? I got a problem with trans people in sports. I don't know how that works, but I'm not going to talk about it in a way where I feel like I got to condemn people for it to the point to where it puts their lives at risk or puts their mental health at risk. How did I get off on that? I think because I was talking about controversial picks, and I can't remember if the woman who said that whole thing about the ladies' room was a cabinet pick. I don't know, but let me get back on topic here. What's the best thing Democrats can do? Their jobs. They can do their jobs. Provide advice and consent. Come prepared with relevant questions to determine whether or not the nominee has the knowledge, skill, and will work hard in the position. And that work hard part may seem silly, but don't dismiss that. There isn't a single agency of this government that doesn't have some major problems, and they're not going to be fixed overnight. So I want to know the nominee understands the task before him or her. This ain't no 9-to-5 job. This ain't no cocktail party going to 8 weeks a year vacation job. So ask questions. Don't grandstand. Don't spend all your time giving your personal proclamations about what the Department of Education is all about. Or use your time to tell an emotional tearjerker story about how Tammy Duckworth lost her legs. She's a hero. I get it. Just stick to the advice and consent. Can the nominee do the job that will be best for America? Can they do the job that will be best for America? That will be far more effective in exposing whether or not the nominee has the knowledge, has the skill, understands the job. That will be far more effective in helping the American public form an opinion about the nominee. And if they're exposed, they'll take their name out of consideration. Trump is not going to really withdraw anyone. I don't think he'll look to withdraw anyone's name. But like a Matt Gaetz, they'll take themselves out of consideration if it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's just too much that's been exposed in that advice and consent hearing process. So the bottom line is, I'm not going to overreact. Yeah, I have my opinions. And some people do appear to be bad picks to me based on my opinions, based on what I know. And obviously, we all know the picks are there to show loyalty to Donald Trump, to be yes men or yes women, to protect him. Yes, we know that. We know that. That's not good. That's never good. But I'll wait for the confirmation hearings. I'll see how things play out, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. What else can we do? Let's get on the phone call and organize. Let's organize our resistance. Oh, you people. You people. I'm going to tell you, I just want to mention to you what I'm going to do going forward. Coming to the end of the year now, so I will have my What I Got Wrong show for the year. I always do that. What I got wrong. Oh, imagine that. Imagine that. Someone who admits they got things wrong all throughout the year. Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. I'm going to have to say, hey, look, I got this wrong. I got that wrong. I got new information. I've changed my opinion. So I'll do that. But this has been a very frustrating time for me. A very frustrating time. Because on one hand, I'm seeing the result of this election, and I'm seeing people come out who are the exact same people who got us this result, who led us down this path, if you were a Kamala Harris supporter, a Joe Biden supporter, coming out saying, man, this is what went wrong. This is what we should have done. This is how we can change going forward. All the same people who led you astray the last time. And I'm sitting here going, man, I did this episode where I said that, and I did this episode where I said that, and I did this episode where I said that. But at the same time, I'm saying to myself, nobody wants to hear that. That's all in the past. It's over. It's done with. The election's over. No one wants to hear me go on and on and on and on about what I said and what I think I was right about. Nobody wants to hear that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm sitting here listening to these idiots sit here and say, going forward, we probably shouldn't call people stupid. Oh, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. I said that 50 gazillion times on this podcast. It's not helpful when you call people stupid. That ain't a good way to open a conversation, open up a discussion, have a civil discourse. And so how can I sit here and just, oh, well, I can't. But I also don't want to do every episode where I'm sitting here going, remember when I said this? Remember when I said that? So what I'm going to do, along with the What I Got Wrong episode, is I'm going to put together a clip show episode. People like that, kind of year in review sort of thing. I'm going to put together clips from different episodes of things that I said that were right on target. Right on target. If only people had listened. And if you want to get a jump start on that, oh my goodness gracious, goobly goo. If you go back and you listen to 2 episodes, you can listen to The Reason Biden Could Lose, and you can listen to the episode, This Is How Biden Wins. If you want to go back and listen to those 2 episodes, it will blow your mind, I think, what I was saying in those episodes. And then listen to what people are saying now, after the fact. Those episodes are, I think, from like a year ago. I think one was back in 2023. One might have been in this year. Might have been, I don't know, February or April of this year. I don't remember. But The Reason Biden Could Lose, and This Is How Biden Wins. Those 2 episodes. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. YouTube if you want to comment. YouTube if you want to comment. I welcome your comments. But I'm going to put together, because I'm just not going to let it go. I don't want people to think they're wasting their time. This is an investment in time listening to this podcast. And so if people want to jump on board, if people are new to the podcast and they want to know why I'm flipping out, why I sound the way I sound, why I'm calling people stupid and idiots and stop listening to them, well, you can go back and you can listen to those episodes, and then you can also listen to the clip show when I do it, and you're going to see, oh, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know where he's from. I don't know what he's about. But doggone rootin' tootin', excuse my language, if he wasn't right on target with some things he said. With some things he said about the Democratic Party and what they're getting wrong. Oh, the one thing I hate, if you go back to the past episodes, yes, it was the Comparison Group podcast, not the Comparison Guy podcast. It was the Comparison Group podcast, because my initial way of thinking was that this show is for people who want to be in that comparison group, in that control group. The people who don't take the red pill, don't take the blue pill, who think. The people left in this country who think, who have common sense. So that's why I called it the comparison group, because it seems like that group of people is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so how will you recognize it when you see it? If you don't have a group, a comparison group to compare the crazy to, whether it's crazy on the left or crazy on the right, how will you recognize it? How will you know what's crazy? It's getting harder and harder to tell what's crazy now because the left and the right, it's almost like they're going around in a circle and they're meeting in the middle. They're just as crazy. They're just as, both sides just as crazy now. It's hard to recognize. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes from the crazy. And so the comparison group was supposed to be that difference that you can recognize. So if you listen to the old episodes and you hear me say comparison group, that's why. People will tune in and go, oh, I only hear one guy talking. Where's the group? And so I had to change it to comparison guy. That's why. And also, you may hear me refer to a website. The website isn't up anymore. I didn't really need it. It wasn't making a whole lot of sense. You go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, go anywhere, you get old episodes. So that was the purpose for the website. Don't need it. So don't go looking for any comparison group website. Other than that, what else I got to say? That's it. That's the show. I'm done. I usually try and have a provocative wrap up to the show, but I don't have one now. So that's it. More do you want? Doing a podcast here. I ain't playing games with you.
Games people play, night or day, they're just not matching what they should do. Keep me feeling blue. Been down too long, right, wrong, I just can't stop it. Spending all day thinking just of you.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Please rate. Please help me out. Just takes 2 seconds if you could. It just helps. It just gives incentive for other people to listen. If you'd like other people to listen, if you appreciate what I'm doing here, I don't ask you for much. I'm not asking for your money. Don't send me any money. Just give me a rating.
Can't get no rest. Don't know how I work all day. When will I learn? Memories get in the way. I walk around, I can't hear a sound, folks talking loud, but I don't see at all. I gotta get away, I don't know where to go.
Listen on Apple Podcasts, listen on Spotify, listen and comment on YouTube.
Well, I spent all that day fixing up to go somewhere. Thought I was late, and I found she wasn't.
Thanks for listening. I will see you next time.
Love, peace of mind some other time, but I still have today. I gotta get away, I don't know where to go.